Greetings, I am Toglin, Hell's Harlequin, but you may call me Tog. Today we're going to talk about simulator sickness. What is it, and why does it matter? In the 1990s, a whopping 80% of people who attempted to play flight simulators got some form of motion sickness, hence the term simulator sickness. The term is actually used to refer to any form of motion sickness you get while playing video games, not just flight simulators. They've been doing more studies into simulator sickness because a lot more people have been getting it since VR has been popular. But other than VR and flight simulators, a lot of people just simply have issues with first-person games in general, even people that didn't initially think they would. When Mirror's Edge first came out, one of the biggest complaints of the game is it was making a lot of people nauseous and dizzy. Same thing with Dying Light. There hasn't been too much hard data gathered about simulator sickness since the 1990s, but they have found that third-person games seem to trigger it a lot less than first-person games. That was actually one of the reasons why they changed a lot of racing games to having a third-person mode, even though they were intended to be first-person only, because test audiences or test players would get way too sick in first-person. Game developer Hideo Kojima actually had a really bad case of simulator sickness, hence why Metal Gear Solid is in third person with very limited camera movements, was because he wanted the game accessible to people like him who wouldn't be able to play it otherwise. So you might be thinking, Lady Tog, why do you even care? Okay, now it's time for a little bit of story time with Tog. When I was a lot younger, I used to play GoldenEye a lot with a friend named Nick. Now, when I first started playing, I would get a little bit of disorientation, but after playing for a while, it usually calmed down and I could be able to play relatively okay. But I went over to a friend's house when I was in middle school, and she invited me to play Halo with her, and I experienced a crazy amount of disorientation. The longer I played, the worse it got. And she just laughed and made comments that you're not very good at this game. And I kind of put it down and just said I don't like playing first-person shooters. What I didn't realize is my discomfort wasn't just a lack of interest. I was actually experiencing a very bad case of vertigo while playing. It was an extremely uncomfortable and disorienting experience for me. I have also experienced that while watching the Blair Witch Project or anything with too shaky of a camera. But generally movies are okay. When I was a little older, I had some friends who talked me into getting Left 4 Dead 2. Now, that one wasn't quite as nauseating as Halo. I think it's because I was much closer to the screen, but it was still quite nauseating around after a half hour, 40 minutes, when people were like, let's do another run. I literally couldn't. I was done. I was starting to feel very dizzy. There's only ever been one first-person game that I've managed to beat or play all the way through, which would have been Amnesia: The Dark Descent, but my theory is I had my headphones on, I was mostly focused on the audio, not the visual. I didn't really run at all in that game. If you listen, rather than really run out there, you can actually completely avoid the monster just by hiding in a cupboard. So I mostly walked and stayed in one place. That's probably why it wasn't quite as bad. But I noticed over time, my motion sickness when it came to first-person shooters have gotten worse. Well, I'm less dizzy but more nauseous. When I attempted to play Left 4 Dead with some friends relatively recently, I almost threw up on my keyboard. It was pretty terrible. So I can very safely say that any game in first person is now 100% unplayable. Now, my simulator sickness isn't as bad as some people I've heard of. Some people can't even spectate a first-person game. I can generally watch someone else playing as long as they don't go spastic with their camera. Anyway, that doesn't exclude me from actually wanting to play shooters. When I was younger, I used to play a lot of SOCOM with my friends because its third-person mode really wasn't a bad third-person. I quite enjoy third-person shooters. I'm pretty good at EDF, or at least I think I'm good at EDF. I might be wrong, but I think I'm okay at it. Fencer all the way. So where, oh where am I going with this? Well, as all of you know, Cyberpunk 2077 recently came out, and it's first person only, despite pressure to try and make it third person. Now, even if I didn't have simulator sickness, I find their decision to make it first person baffling. Why in the world would you brag about being able to customize your genitals if you're never really going to see your genitals? But I'm also kind of bitter because there's no way I'd be able to play As I said before, us who suffer from simulator sickness is a lot bigger population than people probably think it is. The problem, though, is that a lot of people with it have a much more mild case than I do, so they just suffer through, and a lot of people are rather tolerant for the sake of gameplay and whatnots. Should game companies start being pressured to accommodate those with more severe cases of simulator sickness? Or should we just suck it up and play the couple of games that might come out from a AAA developer that they graciously give us in third person? Because this could just simply be a video of me whining, which I'll own that. I'll own this is a video of me whining. But do I have a right to advocate for myself? Do I have a right to whine about these things? Obviously, I will stand up for artistic integrity, and I'm not going to make developers create their games in third person or give you a third person mode. But I would like people to be more conscientious that this is a problem and that a good amount of the population is left out of modern gaming. I guess, I could suck it up. That's an option. But I do kind of feel like I do have a right to advocate for my particular position. I hope I don't sound like one of those who's like, I want more representation. I don't want representation. I want accessibility. But that's just my personal opinion. I would really like to see what other people think. Should there be some sort of social awareness, social pressure of this, or is it just kind of a non-issue? It's a bit of an issue to me. But overall, I could definitely see from an objective point of view of this being a very much a non-issue. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I wish all of you a pleasant rest of your day.